Chapter 8. Luke and Jenny suddenly found themselves standing back at the spot where the robbery had occurred. Only now it was daylight, and they recognized Bob Paul, the guard, waiting nearby on a horse as other members of the posse rode up to meet him. Luke and Jenny noticed the three Earp brothers, Wyatt, Virgil, and Morgan, were there, along with Deputy Sheriff Billy Breckenridge. Then the swamper pointed out their friend Bat Masterson wearing a derby hat, along with Sheriff Behan. Another man with them that day was Marshal Williams. "Is he a marshal too?" asked Luke. The swamper laughed and explained, "No, that's his real name. Marshal Williams works for Wells Fargo along with Wyatt Earp." "But how can we ride with them?" asked Luke. "We don't have any horses." "Look over there, my young friend," said the swamper. They followed the swamper's gaze and saw two other spirit people, a man and a woman, holding three horses. The horses must have been ghosts too, since they had the same eerie white glow about them that the swamper had. "Luke and Jenny, I'd like to introduce you to some of my friends from the Birdcage Theater. Meet Johnny and Marguerite. They wanted to help out, so they brought some special horses for you to ride. Now come with me, Luke." Luke followed the swamper to one of the horses that Johnny was holding. Johnny was smoking a cigar, so Luke asked him if it was his cigar he'd smelled in the lobby of the birdcage. Johnny smiled and nodded. "That was me. We were all watching you and Jenny and your mother in the museum, so we thought we'd have a little fun and play tag with you. We couldn't resist the fun of messing up Jenny's picture, and we all had a good laugh when your mother got upset and tried to tell you that there are no such thing as ghosts." "Johnny and his friends like to have fun with visitors at the birdcage," explained the swamper, "but they mean no harm. Now, if you'll put your foot in this stirrup, I'll help you get on the horse, and Marguerite will help you with yours, Jenny." Jenny looked over at the woman. She was very pretty, with long black hair falling over her bright red dress. She had a beautiful smile and spoke with a Spanish accent. As Marguerite helped Jenny on her horse, she said, "Don't be nervous. He's a very gentle horse. Here, just hold on to the reins like this, and you're all ready to go." "Thank you," said Jenny. "You're welcome," said Marguerite. "Hey, swamper," yelled Johnny, We'll meet you over at Big Nose Kate's. A baseball game's about to start." "I'll see you there soon," replied the swamper as he mounted his horse. Neither Luke nor Jenny had ever ridden a horse before, but they both found that it was a lot of fun. They rode along with the posse for what seemed like a very long time. The swamper told them they were riding over several days, but that the time had been sped up for them. Finally, they arrived at a ranch, and everyone, including Luke and Jenny, got off their horses as a man came out to greet them. "Mr. Redfield," said Wyatt, "we're searching for the men who robbed the Benson stage. Have you seen any of them around here?" "Look, Wyatt, over there," shouted his brother Morgan as he pointed to another man who had spotted them and was looking for a place to hide. Morgan chased after him and caught him in the barn as Luke and Jenny and the other posse members followed. After the man surrendered, he told them his name was Luther King. Wyatt looked at Johnny Behan. "You stay here with Mr. King. The rest of us are going outside to talk about what we should do next." As soon as Wyatt and the others left, another man came in the barn and started talking to Luther King. They kept their voices low so Luke and Jenny could not make out what they were saying. But as soon as Wyatt came back in, the man bolted out. "Behan, what have you done?" shouted Wyatt. "I told you not to let any of the Redfield brothers talk to Luther King. Don't you know that they're friends with the cowboys?" Wyatt began questioning Luther King, who admitted he'd held the horses for the other outlaws during the stagecoach robbery. He told Wyatt that the other men involved were Billy Leonard, Harry Head, and Jimmy Crane, and where they were camped. "Those are all very dangerous outlaws," said the swamper. "They won't be easy to capture. And to complicate things even more, Billy Leonard is a friend of Doc Holliday's." Wyatt Earp looked at Johnny Behan and said, "You take this man back to Tombstone. The rest of us are going after the others. But thanks to you, no doubt Hank Redfield's already one step ahead of us, and he'll warn them that we're coming." "What happens now?" Luke asked the swamper. "The Earps and the others will spend the next week and a half chasing the outlaws. Then their horses will become too exhausted to keep up the chase. Virgil will send Johnny Behan a telegram asking for fresh horses, but Behan will fail to deliver them. In the end, they'll come up empty-handed, and you can bet they won't be very happy when they get back to Tombstone." "It sounds like Johnny Behan is not that smart," said Jenny. "Or maybe he's just pretending to be dumb," said Luke. "What do you mean?" asked Jenny. "Well, we know that Johnny Behan is a friend of the cowboys, and we just watched him let Hank Redfield talk to Luther King after Wyatt Earp told him not to. So I think he's secretly helping the cowboys." The swamper laughed. "You may be onto something, Luke. Would you like to test your theory?" Luke nodded his head. "Okay," said the swamper. "Our next stop is the jail in Tombstone." A moment later, Luke and Jenny were in the Tombstone jail. They saw a young blonde man seated behind a desk doing paperwork. The swamper told them the man was Harry Woods, and he was Johnny Behan's undersheriff. What's an undersheriff? Asked Luke. Like an assistant sheriff, replied the swamper. Oh, said Luke. Just then a tired-looking Wyatt Earp walked in with another man. Wyatt explained that word was out that a large group of cowboys might be riding into town that night to try to break Luther King out of jail, and he asked Harry Woods to go back and put him in irons. Sure, Wyatt, I'd be happy to, he replied. Wyatt thanked him as he and the other man left, but Harry Woods stayed at his desk. So why didn't he go back and put Luther King in irons like he said he would? Asked Jenny. A few minutes later, another man came in asking Harry about a horse he had for sale. Something's not right here, said Luke. Come with me, said the swamper. He led them down to the jail cells. They arrived just in time to see Luther King step out of his cell and walk out the back door of the jail. They watched him mount a horse that was tied behind the building and ride off. Think you're right, Luke. They're all bad cops. They really are friends with the cowboys. This escape will cause a huge public outcry, said the swamper. Of course, Harry Woods will deny any wrongdoing, but Wyatt Earp is going to try to turn the tables in his favor. You see, Johnny Behan had promised to make Wyatt his undersheriff, but then he gave the job to Harry Woods instead. So now Wyatt wants to run for sheriff in the next election. He thinks that if he can catch the robbers, he'll win. He's going to make a secret deal with some of the cowboys to make that happen. Follow me down this alley to hear them seal the deal.